So back again, just trying to figure out what I want to do next. So I think what I'm going to do, I'm going to clean up, straighten up my workspace a little bit, and then I'm going to come back over here, and I think I'm going to get on the saddle carriage. So I've been kind of putting it off. This rust, it's not terrible, but it does take a bit to get off. So one thing I wanted to mention is I had someone in the comments ask me how difficult it was to get the carriage and apron off. So actually not that bad. What I did was, it's going to be easier to show you on this one. I put a pile of rags and stuff under here, and then I loosened the hold-down bolts that hold the carriage into place. Of course, this is after I got the lead screw and the feed screw and the actuator for on-off. I already got those out of there. Took that block right there off, and then pulled all these lead screws and drive rods out. So I basically just had this thing sitting here. I took those bearings, which are on the back side, I took those off. I actually have them right here. I took those off, got rid of them, so they weren't going to hold me up. Like I said, I put these rags down under here, took all but 2 screws out of the top of the saddle going to the carriage, and then I threaded in 2 pretty long bolts. Actually, I think I might have used threaded rod, because at the time I wasn't super sure how heavy this is, other than I knew it was heavy. So I put, I think it's 5/16, could be 3/8, threaded rod with nuts on it, and took the remaining screws out, and then by loosening the nuts, lowered the apron down onto the rags that I had. I did have to, tap on it with a dead blow mallet to get this loosened up here. But once I got it dropped down, I was able to unthread the nuts and then lift the carriage off. Also, I had removed the compound and cross slide first just to reduce weight. So that actually went pretty smooth. And when I reinstall it, I'll do the same thing. I set the apron down, line it all up. I run a threaded rod down through here and over here. And then I use a threaded rod as a jack to pull it up into place. The alignment has to be pretty good because the oil transfer lines that come from the bottom, there's a pump down in the bottom that pumps whey oil, and it distributes it up to the top. So they all have to be lined up. There's some cork gaskets, and there's actually like a little, well, this is the top of the apron. You can see there's a little oiler that comes in here, and it fills that little well up, and there's this, kind of like material in there, and it weeps out and goes down those tubes. But then this, where is it? This right here is the transfer port to get the pressurized oil up into the top of the saddle. Pretty clever design. I learned about that trick of lowering the apron from Practical Machinist on the 10EE forums. Forget which guy put that up there, but it was a really good idea. So, all right, I'm going to start soaking this down, and you'll see if we're able to get any of this grunge off of here. So, got my place cleaned up here. I'm on my Eastwood cleanup workbench, the one that has the drain in it, and then underneath here is a little catch basin. So this is the saddle, sorry. This is the underside. This is the distribution manifold for the whey oil. On my other Monarch, I had taken all this apart. Everything was completely clogged up. This one is not clogged up, but I'll take it apart and blow the lines out. There's these blocks that go on the ends here, and what these do, there's a bearing in there, and that bearing rides on the underside of the ways, and you can see right here this adjustment screw. This is like an eccentric, so you loosen one up and you spin it around, and you basically move this bearing up and down to put pressure on the underside of the ways so that it doesn't lift when you're cutting. It also has I believe it goes right there. That is the carriage clamp. This is the bolt head that goes up on the top. So I'm going to tear into this thing and start getting it cleaned up. And what I'm going to hit this first with, I have purple degreaser. We'll give that a go. It's pretty grubby. We'll see how we get. Then I'll flip it over, do the other side. I think the best bet with this is just to soak it down really well and then let it sit for a while. This is probably 50-50 mix. It's just what I had in the squirt bottle, so I may, if this doesn't cut through, I may increase that to full strength because this is pretty nasty. I've had generally pretty good luck with the purple cleaner, but there's just some times where solvent-based cleaner is more effective. All right, let's see what happens when we try to run the brush on this thing. Yeah, it's definitely not liking this. What's interesting is just looking at the waves here, I can actually still see scraping. I think this thing has got a ton of wear on it, which is kind of nice. This area right here where it's rusty is actually not a bearing surface. This is. And then I see a little bit of wear on. I wouldn't say it's excessive. Definitely not excessive, but there's a little bit of wear on it. And the other thing is, there's right next to, probably can't see it. Ouch. Right there is the oil port, and that is plugged up. There's one here, that one is not plugged up. So I'll run a thin welding rod through there, try to get this cleaned up. Yep, years and years of build up on here. All right, I'm going to just let it soak and then I'll bring you back. Okay, so I got this all cleaned up. You can see this oil distribution manifold. So this larger line comes from over here, which is connected to the pump. I pulled this all apart, blew all these lines out. So this one comes here, goes into the manifold, and then is distributed to each of the points on this carriage. I did each one of these separately. You have to take one off before you can get the other one off because you can see how tight they are. But they're not all the same size. There's a check valve and an orifice in this fitting right here. And they're all not the same size. So I just did them one at a time so that I didn't screw it up when I put them back together. Like you see, this one says 00. This one says, I believe, 10, or just a single zero, a 00. And of course, you see this one is a larger line. So if you look here in the ways, this is where the oil comes out to lubricate this one. Then there's one here. This is actually like some kind of a cosmoline stuff or grimy oil. So you have 3 that you see there. Then the other 2 actually go up to the top side of this thing, which would then be for the cross slide. So came out pretty clean. I mean, I did take the manifold out, blew it all out, put it in the ultrasonic, cleaned everything. Okay, so I'm going to capture some time I spent on the carriage here. Carriage saddle, whatever you want to call it. So what I did first was clean the underside. Let me see if I can get you to see what's going on here. Let's see if that's in the frame. Okay, so I showed you previous shot of this area right here, just completely caked with swarf and all kinds of machining debris and caked oil and stuff. So got that all cleaned up. I took this manifold out, pulled all these lines up. These are all the oiling lines. So I think I talked about it in the other shot, but the oil comes in here, right here, goes into this manifold, and then it goes to the various places on this saddle. So one, in fact, goes out here to the hand wheel. So there's a bearing inside the cross-slide hand wheel that's lubricated. You have two right here that are coming into this V wave, and then you have one over here that's coming in to the flat. And then there's, I think, a couple that are coming from the top that are going to the cross-slide. This kind of flat scrape area is what the apron bolts to. These marks right here are where the saddle bearings that go underneath the ways that sort of keep this saddle from lifting. They clamp right here. And I'll show you those. I clean those up as well. Then on the top side, from all the years of this thing being beat on, I guess, or dropping tools and stuff, it actually wasn't beat on. Let me just see if you're in the frame here. Yeah, okay. So what I did here was there were just a ton of tool marks. So I wanted to, see how we were doing. I put this thing up on my milling machine, and I used half-tenths. I think best test. Anyway, I just checked everything to the best I could and found that these guys were all relatively, within a half a thou of except for this one. This one, for some reason, was down about a thousand or so. Again, not terrible. I couldn't fit this thing on my surface grinder, so what I did was I put a nice brand new end mill in, and basically just barely touched all these. So I had the thing rigidly set up and just ran over the whole thing with my end mill, and then just took a nice aluminum block with some 400 sandpaper and just got the marks from the end mill kind of out of it. Not necessary to have done, but I just, kind of goes with the theme of what I'm trying to do here. So, so what I'm going to do is, in these spots right here, I'm going to sand this all down, get it looking pretty nice, and then I'll mask everything off, and then we'll get it in the little paint booth over there, and we'll get some primer and paint on it, so I can get this thing mounted up on top of the on the lathe. I know I said I wasn't going to put any more primer stuff in, so I'll probably just skip over the primer stuff. I'll just show you this when it's all finished being painted. The one thing that's kind of interesting, there's a little oval hole right here, and although this piece right here is covered by like a sort of like this way cover that slides back and forth, and it's located with this pin. This hole right here seems to let a lot of junk get down, and that's, I think, how a lot of the metal shavings and crap all got on top of that manifold. That manifold is right below here. So, of course, this thing is not going to see the heavy-duty use that maybe it saw back in the day. I'm just a weekend hobby machinist, and I'll be very nice to it, so it won't get beat up. All right, so I'll bring you back when I get some more of this sanding and stuff done and get it cleaned up, and then I'll just show you what it looks like when it's ready to be painted. And then we'll be getting more of these parts put on this machine. Thanks. Oh, I figure I'd give you a little bit of video of cleaning this thing up. This is where the taper attachment attaches to. The other thing I'd point out, kind of interesting, let's see if you can see this. Yeah, so these, let's see, are you down there? Yeah. So these bolt holes right here is countersunk or counterboard bolt holes are where the fasteners go down that attach the apron. And every one of these has a copper washer stuck in the bottom of the, on the flat side of where the counterbore is. Actually, some even had two of these copper washers. I'll show you right here. So, copper washers. Don't remember that on the other lathe. I'll have to go back later and look in the parts, exploded parts view to see if I can see what's happening there, but that's kind of odd. There's one still stuck in here. I can't get it out, so you know, it'll have to stay there for a while. So, all right, well, just continue on cleaning this thing up. Hey guys, wanted to give you a little look at the saddle. I finished sort of cleaning up the machine surfaces, and I've got the painted areas all painted. So I'm waiting for the paint to harden up, and then I'll get that put onto the lathe. You see that's all been completely cleaned up. Looks great, and it's an exciting time when you get that saddle back. Anytime you put big parts on, it's kind of fun. I like it. All right, guys, we'll keep this thing going. Hey guys, so it's time. I'm gonna put the saddle on here. Get a little bit of whey oil on this right here, and we'll just do a little bit right here. I'll add the whey wipers later, but just, at least right now I can get this thing on here. It's kind of heavy. All right. All right, so just gingerly setting it on there. Okay, there we go. Let's take a look and see how it feels. Very smooth. Yep. All right, well, I think I'm gonna wait on the taper attachment, so the next is gonna be the apron. So the apron, I haven't started on it yet, so I've got a few hours to go on that guy to get him cleaned up. I'm not gonna mess with any of the stuff on the front there, you know, the cross slide or any of that till I get the apron on. Okay, I'll bring you back when I've got something of interest to put on here.